Ladies and gentlemen, and especially the gentleman who frees up the moment she walks by, let's cut the fluff, drop the fear, and talk real. You see her, you feel it, your heart skips, your palms sweat, your mind races, and then you say nothing. Why? Because no one taught you how to talk to the women you actually like. Well, guess what? That ends today, because I'm here with the raw truth, the bold tips, and the kind of advice that doesn't whisper, it roars. I'm not handing out cheesy pickup lines or fake confidence tricks. No, I'm giving you the real, grounded, game-changing advice on how to talk to women you fancy, not with manipulation, not with fear, but with presence, authenticity, and power. So buckle up, breathe deep, and get ready to rewrite the way you show up, because by the time I'm done with you, you won't just talk to her. You'll connect, captivate, and maybe, just maybe, get that number, that date, or that unforgettable moment you've been too scared to claim. Confidence is built, not faked. Own your presence. That's the truth most people don't want to hear, because it means taking responsibility for who you are and how you show up. Confidence isn't a mask you throw on before talking to a woman. It's not about acting like someone else or pretending you have it all together. Real confidence comes from the inside out. It's built over time through self-respect, self-discipline, and experience. It doesn't shout or seek attention. It's quiet, grounded, and sure. It doesn't need approval, because it's not looking for permission to be seen. When you're talking to a woman you fancy, that kind of confidence is everything. It allows you to be present instead of performing. It lets you express interest without pressure. And it gives you the ability to handle whatever response you get with grace. But the problem is, too many men try to fake confidence by imitating someone else's swagger. They memorize lines, they force body language, they overcompensate with bravado, and maybe on the surface it works for a few seconds, but underneath the energy is off. It feels performative, not authentic. And people can sense that. You don't need to be loud, cocky, or arrogant to be confident. You just need to own who you are, flaws and all, and bring that to the table with intention. Confidence is clarity about your own value. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about knowing you belong in the room. That kind of presence doesn't come from wishful thinking. It comes from action. It comes from keeping your promises to yourself. From doing the things you say you'll do, especially when no one's watching. From facing discomfort instead of running from it. Every time you do something difficult, every time you show up with honesty, every time you choose growth over comfort, you're building confidence. And when it's time to speak to a woman you're drawn to, all that internal work shows up externally, in the way you stand, in the way you listen, in the way you speak without needing to prove anything. Owning your presence means you stop apologizing for being interested. You stop shrinking in order to be liked. You stop trying to read her mind and start trusting your own. It means you walk up not to get validation, but to give connection, to explore chemistry, not chase approval. That shift in energy changes everything. You're no longer asking her to complete you. You're inviting her to experience who you already are, and that's magnetic. Not because you're perfect, but because you're unapologetically real. You also stop overthinking every word, every glance, every reaction. Because confidence simplifies things. It allows you to focus on the moment rather than the outcome. You're not rehearsing your next move or trying to manage how you're perceived. You're just being. That kind of grounded presence is rare, and it creates an emotional space that feels safe, open, and engaging. It makes the conversation feel easy, because you're not trying to impress. You're just expressing. Building that presence takes consistency. It's not a one-time performance, it's a lifestyle. It's found in how you treat yourself when no one's watching, in how you recover from failure, in how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. If you want confidence when it counts, you need to live in a way that earns your own respect, that inner respect radiates. It's not forced, it's felt, and that feeling is what allows you to connect with others in an honest, powerful way. Confidence is also knowing that rejection doesn't define you. It's part of the process, not a reflection of your worth. When you understand that, you approach situations with curiosity rather than fear. You're open to learning, growing, and evolving. You show up fully, without holding back or pretending, and that openness makes you relatable, not just attractive. It makes you human, And being fully human is far more compelling than trying to be some flawless version of confidence that doesn't really exist. Authenticity beats clever lines. Be real, not rehearsed. When you're talking to a woman you're attracted to, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you need the perfect line, the funniest opener, or some kind of magical script that will impress her instantly. That mindset is what gets so many people stuck. They spend all their energy trying to say the right thing rather than just saying the true thing. They try to be someone they think she wants rather than showing up as who they really are. And in doing that, they create pressure that kills connection. Because the moment you step out of your own truth, your energy becomes strained, your words lose weight, and your presence becomes forgettable. Being real is what makes you memorable. It's what creates emotional impact. A simple, honest "Hi, I noticed you and wanted to come say hello" carries more power than a rehearsed pickup line delivered with fake bravado. Why? Because sincerity is rare. Most people are hiding behind layers of performance, trying to protect themselves from judgment or rejection. But when someone shows up with nothing to hide, it's disarming. It feels different. It feels refreshing. And most importantly, it feels trustworthy. People respond to what feels honest. Even if it's not perfect, you don't need to impress her with cleverness. You need to engage her with presence. That means being in the moment, not in your head. Not planning your next line while she's talking. Not trying to manipulate the conversation in a certain direction. Just being there, listening, and letting your natural curiosity lead. When you're genuinely interested in who she is, your questions flow with ease. Your responses have depth, your energy feels alive, not scripted, and that kind of interaction sticks. It stands out in a world full of shallow attempts and empty compliments. The truth is, most people are tired of pretending. They're tired of games, of personas, of surface-level charm. What they crave is something real, a moment that feels grounded, a conversation that feels human, and the only way to create that is to lead with your truth. That means speaking in your own voice, using your own words, and expressing your own perspective without worrying if it's good enough. Because when you're authentic, you're not performing, you're connecting. You're not chasing validation, you're sharing who you are. Authenticity also gives you resilience. When you're being real, rejection doesn't sting the same way, because you're not being rejected for a version of yourself you made up. You're simply seeing whether there's mutual connection, chemistry, or interest, and if there's not, that's okay. You don't lose anything by being honest. In fact, you gain clarity, you learn, you grow. You become stronger in your identity, and that strength becomes attractive in itself. It's not about needing everyone to like you, it's about being okay with who you are, even when they don't. Another thing authenticity does is allow you to access your natural sense of humor, timing, and intuition. When you're not trying to control the outcome, you're free to be spontaneous, to respond in the moment, to laugh, to play, to explore, and that sense of freedom is contagious. It puts the other person at ease. It makes the interaction feel less like an interview and more like a vibe, like something unfolding naturally, and that's where real connection happens. Not in the perfect line, but in the honest presence behind the words. You don't need to exaggerate your stories. Pretend you're more confident than you are, or say things just because you think they'll land well. You just need to show up with intention and speak from your center. Your energy will do more of the talking than your words ever could. And when your energy matches your words, people notice, they lean in. They listen because something about it feels solid, it feels grounded, it feels safe, and safety is what opens the door to attraction, curiosity, and deeper moments of connection without effort or manipulation. Listen more than you speak. Curiosity is attractive. When you're around someone you're drawn to, the natural instinct is to try and impress them. Most people launch into stories, flex their experiences, or try to fill the silence with constant talking, hoping that more words will create more connection. But often it has the opposite effect. The more you talk, the more it feels like a performance, and in that performance, you lose the opportunity to actually learn who the other person is. Real connection isn't about constantly showcasing yourself, it's about showing genuine interest in the other person. And that starts with listening. Listening is a rare skill. Most people think they're doing it, but they're really just waiting for their turn to talk. They're planning what they'll say next. They're filtering everything through their own perspective, and they're not truly present in the moment. When you actually listen, when you put your full attention on someone, without interrupting, without drifting, without trying to steer the conversation back to yourself, that presence is felt. And in a world full of distractions and shallow conversations, that level of attention is powerful. Curiosity is what separates good listeners from great ones. It's not just about being silent while the other person talks. It's about being genuinely interested in what they're saying. It's about asking follow-up questions, noticing the small things, reading between the lines. When you're curious, your attention becomes magnetic. The other person feels seen, valued, and heard, and that experience alone can create a deeper impression than any compliment or story you could tell, because people remember how you made them feel. And feeling heard is unforgettable. There's also something powerful that happens when you shift from talking to listening. You take the pressure off. Instead of trying to come up with the perfect thing to say, you let the conversation unfold naturally. You create space for the other person to reveal themselves, to open up, to relax, and in that space, connection has room to grow. It stops being about performing and starts being about presence. The more space you create for her words, the more likely she is to trust you, open up to you, and feel safe around you. Listening also shows confidence. When you're truly listening, you're not trying to dominate the interaction or prove your worth. You're settled enough in yourself to let the spotlight shift. You're secure enough to let her speak without needing to jump in with your own story, and that quiet confidence stands out. It communicates emotional intelligence, maturity, and self-control. It shows that you value her perspective, that you're not just there to be interesting, you're there to be interested. The questions you ask while listening also reveal a lot about you. Are you asking thoughtful, engaging questions that go beyond the surface? Are you picking up on what matters to her, what lights her up, what frustrates her, what excites her? Are you following the thread of the conversation or constantly changing the subject back to you? The more tuned in you are, the more naturally the conversation will flow. You won't need to force chemistry, you'll create it through presence and awareness. Listening also teaches you. You start to pick up on patterns, energy shifts, and nonverbal cues. You become more sensitive to how people express themselves, what matters to them, what they're really saying underneath the words. That sensitivity gives you an edge, not because you're manipulating, but because you're paying attention. You understand more, you respond better, you build rapport faster. And the more skilled you get at listening with curiosity, the more women will want to keep talking to you, not because you said something amazing, but because you made them feel deeply understood. Practice makes powerful. Get reps, not results. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to get better at talking to women they're attracted to is waiting for the perfect moment. They think they need to feel totally confident first, or that they have to wait until they're sure they won't mess it up. But the truth is, confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from action. The more you put yourself in real situations, the more natural it becomes. Talking to women isn't about winning every interaction. It's about showing up over and over again, learning from each experience, and letting repetition build your comfort. Repetition is where the transformation happens. It's how you go from overthinking every word to letting conversations flow. At first, everything feels clunky. You second guess your tone, your timing, your posture, your eye contact. But each time you engage, you learn something new, not just about her, but about yourself. You start noticing patterns. You figure out what feels authentic and what feels forced. You begin to trust your instincts instead of rehearsing lines in your head, and little by little, your baseline of comfort rises. That's the power of practice. It builds fluency through exposure. Most people put too much pressure on individual moments. They treat one interaction like a test they have to pass, but that pressure creates tension, and tension is what blocks connection. When you shift your mindset from needing a certain result to just getting the rep in, everything loosens. You stop judging yourself for awkward moments. You stop needing the outcome to validate you. Instead, you focus on showing up and letting the experience shape you. And ironically, that mindset makes you more magnetic, because now you're present, relaxed, and unattached to how it ends. Getting reps doesn't mean being careless or mechanical. It means approaching interactions with intention, but without obsession. It means making eye contact at the grocery store, saying hi to a stranger on the street, striking up a conversation with a barista. These small, seemingly insignificant moments add up. They train your nervous system to stay calm under social pressure. They build your ability to read signals, to respond in real time, to manage your own anxiety. And when the time comes to talk to someone you're truly interested in, you're not panicking. Your practice. There's also something powerful that happens when you normalize rejection, awkwardness, and imperfection. The more you expose yourself to social risk, the more you realize it's not deadly. You survive it, you move on, and that resilience becomes part of your energy. You're no longer walking on eggshells, terrified of saying the wrong thing. You're grounded in the understanding that one awkward moment doesn't define you. One bad conversation doesn't erase your value. One no doesn't cancel out your worth. That inner knowing gives you the freedom to explore, to experiment, to be bold without being reckless. You also start to develop an internal compass. Through trial and error, you discover what kind of energy you naturally connect with. You stop chasing people who aren't aligned with you. You stop performing. Instead, you refine your awareness, your intuition, your discernment, and all of that comes from repetition, from being willing to engage, reflect, adjust, and try again. You stop being the guy who sits on the sidelines wondering and become the one who's actually learning, evolving, growing through real-world experience. Treat every interaction as training, not a transaction. It's not about getting something. It's about becoming someone who's comfortable in his skin, someone who can handle social uncertainty, someone who's not defined by success or failure but by his willingness to keep showing up. And that willingness creates momentum. It builds a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. It radiates calm, openness, and presence. And that energy is what makes people want to connect with you, not because you forced it, but because you earned it through consistent effort and self-awareness.